Hello friends, in this video I wanted to share the process of building a cardboard prototype, because it was a very valuable step in this project that made me notice a design flaw I otherwise wouldn't have spotted until far too late. I've never taken the time to do a full-size mock-up for a piece of furniture before, but it's something I will be much more likely to do going forwards, and cardboard is a great material for it. The final piece will be of solid wood construction with traditional hand-cut joinery, and when you're gonna spend that much time processing a material that expensive, I've realized that it's probably worth it to take a few extra hours making sure that my vision does translate to physical form. So, with my drawing done, I fetched my cardboard, which I got for free from a nearby furniture store when they received a delivery of Danish design chairs. I'm building this in my marquetry studio at the art school I'm currently attending, and I haven't got most of my tools here, but I have a piece of MDF that I could use as a large square. One of the reasons cardboard works so well for this is its multiple layers. By cutting through the first layer and the wavy core, but leaving the second layer whole, you get a hinge. Here I'm using the method again to make a glue flap, to get a larger attachment area. And the ideal glue is of course hot glue, which hardens in seconds. In truth, cardboard prototyping is so fast you could almost treat it like 3D sketching. Go in without a drawing, without a plan, and just start cutting shapes and hot gluing them together. If I were to try that approach, I would do it at maybe half scale to not use up so much material and be able to work even faster. But with the cabinet carcass mocked up, I turned my attention to the base, and I had this idea of very tall aprons with irregularly curved edges. In cardboard form, I constructed it as another box below the carcass that I could later attach the legs to. The design called for a row of staves along the aprons, so I then cut out a pile of cardboard strips. These would have varying length to mimic the apron curves, but I cut them all to the length of the legs for now. The outermost of these staves would be what actually touches the floor and holds the cabinet up. I was very pleased with this design on the drawing and happily started gluing the rows in place. As most of these strips are simply decorative and don't support any weight, a couple of dots of hot glue was all it took to hold them in place, but the legs were attached more solidly with a full-length bead of glue. At this point I, for some reason, had a look at the carcass again. Something seemed off with the proportions. I decided that it was too deep. I didn't like how it was perfectly square viewed from above. This would have been a very painful realization to have after sawing, planing and dovetailing a wood carcass. But in cardboard, it's barely any time lost. This is not the big design problem I mentioned at the beginning though. That realization is still to hit me. I trimmed the base to suit the new depth, leaving a glue flap for assembly. And then put it together. The rest of the staves were attached. And the legs were stabilized by running a bead in their inside corners, sort of as if welding them. The cabinet could now stand on its own, and this is what it looked like. I had an idea for a carved texture that I wanted to represent in the mock-up as well. So I took a bunch of smaller strips and glued these on horizontally around the carcass. Exactly how this will look when made out of wood, I'll say you're gonna have to wait until the build video to see. But I think it will be really cool, and the sort of rough, unstructured manner I'm attaching them in is intentional here. Then it was time to have a good long look at the model. I had followed the drawing, fixed the issue with the depth, but something still didn't sit right. I thought about it overnight, received some input from my classmates, and came to the conclusion that would have been maybe even a project killer had I rushed straight into my final material. The entire base just did not work. It was too small, and simultaneously had a far too heavy look. The stout box of the carcass needed to be held higher up, and by something much more light and graceful. So I went back to the drawing board. After some loose sketching, I decided to move forward with this design, aiming for an Art Nouveau vibe and a very airy feeling. New legs were cut. And glued up with the weld bead method. A new apron box was built, this time with a pair of risers that would lift the carcass up and give some distance to the base. The new legs were a bit more flimsy on account of the much thinner aprons, so just for the cardboard version I made a piece of floor to glue them to. I'm counting on the wood legs, 1 inch square with mortise and tenon joinery, to be stable enough. But there is the option of adding stretchers if I have to. I don't think that would ruin the design. Finally, I added the curved details. Not sure what you would call these. They are kind of stretchers, I guess, but not really rigid enough to serve that function. In wood, they will be a bent lamination of veneers, but in cardboard, I just softened them up a bit and tacked them in place. The MDF piece clamped to one of the legs is there to keep things square while I put in the curves. And there we have it. The new base felt much better, and I was ready to start making it out of wood, with the confidence of already having seen it in full scale, 3 dimensions, and knowing I had worked out the kinks. But before we get there, I have one more marquetry picture to show you, so that's what's coming up next. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you like to do full-scale models before building, or if this video made you want to try it. I'll see you later. Bye.